of recovery. We know that because your budget is 131 million plus overall. So obviously, we're doing a lot of things in order to stimulate the recovery. That means we're investing heavily in rebuilding Paradise. We're working on restoring services and infrastructure, and we are working on controlling growth in ongoing operational costs, meaning we're trying to be vigilant and conservative in our approach in what we're doing in order to get to the end result, to get to the end of the race. We will end up transitioning into a future phase of completing some of the projects, unless Mark keeps finding more money and having other large projects. But that's also part of the phases. Slow expenditure growth, preserving the pro funds as much as we possibly can, and then stabilizing. We see stabilizing as not growing. Our housing is pretty much at that point where we don't see a lot of opportunity for growth. And so we know that's coming, but we have a long road in order to get there. So when we look at this approach or the budget, you need to understand the person who is putting the key pieces in there. So all the departments are very conservative, and they are actually putting the items in their budget. But I also have a major contribution into this. And so for you to understand the numbers that you're looking at, you have to understand my approach to revenues as well as other allocations. So I tend to be conservative in our revenues. Last year, what we did was we used the county's projection in December for that year. And so I took that this year, and I also utilized the county's projection. So that's where we're getting our property tax numbers, is based off 25, 26 property values. So that's where we're getting those revenues from. For the staff allocation, we budget as we would normally if we weren't doing all of these items. So for example, Mark is funded in 3 different places. Part of that is general fund. But as we progress through the year, he gets allocated to different projects. So the funding that we would have used in general fund to pay for his salary actually gets utilized in another fund, equaling a cost savings. So engineering and economic development staff costs will be charged to the eligible projects as they come about, and so we'll see a reduction on the impact of the general fund. Fire services is also another one that has this kind of attribute to it. So you'll hear Chief Finney up here saying, we're gonna not probably charge you the same amount as what was actually contracted, and we've seen that year over year. But to be conservative, we budgeted the entire amount of the contract that we were projected for this upcoming year. Because at the end of the day, if things go sideways, that's what we are going to be held to. So we should have we have had historical savings for vacancies. And when they budget their contract, they're looking at max staff capacity. And the final part that I would like to say is that police services are also budgeted at max capacity. So if we have an open position or somebody in the position, it is max budgeted for. Now, things happen throughout the year. We know that people are out on leave. We know that there's vacancies. And so we have patterns. And so when we have these types of things come up, we will also have a cost savings. But it's fully max budgeted. So, yes, sir.
When you say max, at maximum capacity, so we're, police services or any of these departments, we're anticipating, you're budgeting at full staffing at, when you say max capacity, does that mean at highest pay grade?
No. What I meant by that is if somebody is out on leave and we know they're out on leave, we still budget as if they were there the entire year at their rate. So we have an opening, we usually come in at mid-rate. But if we have someone out on leave, we budget as if they're coming back and they will be there the whole year. Chances are they're not going to be, but we have to in case they do come back. And so that we had a lot of cost savings in the 25-26 year because of these exact things. So the big takeaway from just this slide is there will be savings. I highly anticipate it not to be at fully 26 million. But we are being conservative in our approach. And if we look at this year, we know that there's probably going to be a couple million fall out. So we're not going to be using the 14 million that was amended, which is fabulous. And that's what you see in the prior years as well. We budgeted for it, it didn't come to light, but in case it did, we're not holding the bag. So the big picture, all funds, 131 million.7. When you look at that compared to the staff level that we have of a little over 100, that's pretty impactful. I bet other places wish they could do that. So general fund spending is 26.5, primarily due to operating budgets used for core services such as police, fire, administration, planning, public works, parks, animal control, and economic development. Yes, sir.
Since I don't have the perfect memory, I don't know what I don't remember what the general fund was for last year. Is this an increase, a decrease, or a level?
2.4 increase.
2.4 increase?
Yes.
Thank you.
So last year, we were looking at 23 and a half, and it increased to 24 when we amended it. Mhm. So what are our funding sources? How do we make the money? General fund revenue, 11.4, so we're looking at property taxes. We're looking at some of the fees for services that are provided by engineering, some of the housing, some of the fees and fines. Predominantly, we're looking at property taxes. And then grants are allocated in other funds, not in the general fund. But for the general fund, we have an injection of the PRO, which is that 15 million that we were talking about earlier. So that is how we are making whole in general fund. Yes.
What was the pro fund transfer last year? Or
Which, 24, 25, 25, 26.
26, sorry.
25, 26, we haven't done yet. We're looking at around 11 and a half.
Okay.
We haven't closed the books, we'll know that.
Okay.
However, on the flip side of that, we budgeted 4 million for interest,
Okay.
and we've already exceeded 5 million.
Okay.
So,
So that was a lower estimated pro funds transfer than we expected for 25, 26, right?
yes.
Okay.
So when we did the amendment, it was closer to 14.
Yeah,
Mhm.
okay.
Yep. So, like I said, we budget for the worst case scenario, and then we hope for the best case. But hope in one hand, you know? You always plan for the worst.
Yeah.
So when we look at the total revenue, we're looking at 131 million. Any questions? Nope. Okay, so here we have our organizational chart. There's lots of boxes. So you see you guys are the top of it. I like to think of us kind of like an hourglass, your direction at the top, and then it funnels down to our town manager, and then directional out. So you have, from the town manager, you have an assistant town manager, police, fire, public works, information, systems, community development, finance, human resources and risk management, recovery and economic, and town clerk. And then they have their core staff underneath. So we're looking at 103.8 full-time equivalents, or FTE, as we like to call it. And then we have 9 town manager direct reports. The assistant town manager role is currently held also by the public works director and town engineer. So multiple hats on that position. Any questions on this? Okay, moving on. Organizational capacity. So when we were looking at pre-fire and what things looked like back in 08, 09, we were looking at 110. As we progressed through the campfire and recovery, you can see that those numbers have shifted and changed as the needs of the different departments and the will of the council of things to be executed. So as you can see, we were high with consultants at the beginning, and as we're transitioning to more established protocols for the different programs and policies put in place, we are at 103.8. Some of those people are not full-time. Some of those people in the spots are part-time, and so when we look at the percentages of full-time, part-time, that all goes into that number. So that's not the actual number of bodies, but it is the amount of full-time together. So now that we're going to look at our general fund expenditure drivers. So the overall increase is over 10%. And you're saying, well, how did that happen? Well, unfunded liability, Woody's favorite word, has a play in that. That's a few $100,000. We have a COLA of 4%, which was approved by council. So that is something that is not adjustable. We cannot sharpen our pencil on that one. That was also at the time that we established the 80/20 employee insurance. And so that you understand what we're looking at for that, we put a 10% multiplier in that as we see that the rates will shift. We don't know what those rates will be, so we had to use that assumption. We also had a shift in our general liability insurance of approximately $100,000. And then the fire contract annual cost adjustment, that one was also a few $100,000, but we're going to have cost savings from Chief. And then we also have new positions. So as we're transitioning with retirements and shifting, we added a police department sergeant that Chief will talk about. We also added a coordinator that was approved at the last budget meeting, or at the last council meeting, as well as the 2 fire inspectors. These are general fund allocations. So if we do get a grant for those inspectors, we will migrate that back out. But right now, like I said, we have to plan for the worst and hope for the best. Also, our workman's comp went up for this next year. So these, I believe it's approximately 100 or 200,000.
Is that because of injuries?
It could be. It's also, we're in a pool, so there's a lot of different multipliers that go into
It
it.
went up even if you don't have injuries, so.
Excuse me?
It went up even if you didn't have injuries for across the board.
Yeah, across.
Yeah.
One of the other things that we should note in there is Measure V is also a contributor for this. So if you recall, in the prior year, we were conservative because we wanted to build up Measure V, the ending balance for that, and so we didn't fully utilize it. Whereas this year, we put a placeholder for $333,000 for an anticipated fire truck that's coming in multiple years. And so that alone increased the overall capital items. Any questions on this? No? Okay. So what does that look like? So you'll notice on the very bottom you see zeros. That's because we make the general fund whole with our pro funds. So our general actuals for 24-25 for our general revenue is 9.5, and we budgeted 8.5 for 25-26. And to date, we're already at 9.4. And that is an example of being conservative. So next year, we're proposing 10 million, and that's based off of county information. Measure V revenues, actual for 24-25 was 1.2. Amended budget for this year is 1.3. To date, we've received 907,000, but we haven't received all of the funding yet. That will be coming. And so next year, we're proposing 1,346,000. So that's, you can see that there's ebbs and flows, and one of the things is in sales tax. And so that's one of the areas we tend to be conservative in, because before this year, it was higher. But think about all the stimulus that people saw from COVID. So you can't always expect it to be exactly like it was the year before and be successful in that assumption. So you can see in 24-25, the question was how much did we move over for the pro funds? It was 11.69 million. Amended budget this year is 14. And so far to date, we've only needed 11 million. So if we have any true ups for property tax or anything like that, we should see a little bit more, or less actually. And then once we do all the transfers to other funds. And so our proposed budget is 15.1 million. Transfers out, those go to the other funds as we can apply those rates to grants in different areas like that. So the total resources is $26 million. Any questions on this? No? Okay, great. So this next part is our general fund reserves. 24-25 actual, our ending balance was 201. We had projected for 25-26, 179. So far to date, because of the amount that we had originally projected and the rollover, it's way better than we had anticipated. So we're at $195 million for our general fund reserves. So that includes the pro funds. I just want to make sure that when we talk about pro funds versus the report that Mark gave, we were talking about cash basis for marks. This is talking about pro fund, and I want to make sure that we are very clear. So cash in the bank. This is book values. So if we utilize all of the budget like we plan, which means we fully utilize that 15 million and we spend 26 million, it would put us at approximately 186 million for our ending fund balance, if we fully utilize everything. General fund revenues, you'll see the green, the dark green, is actual revenues from property taxes. It's our traditional revenues. The yellow is Measure V. You can see it's relatively stagnant, which I find interesting over the years. And then the orange is the pro transfer in. And you'll see in the beginning years, so 2018 through 21, you'll see that there was an insurance backfill, so we are not getting any of that, and the state backfill. So we had, I believe, a hold harmless, if that's what they called it exactly. So we didn't have to use pro funding. Okay, can you play the video, Mark? This was our push-in. Some of you may recall this day. I can see the strain getting that truck in there. So this is a wonderful and exciting example of how we are utilizing our Measure V funds. It is making a difference for things that require attention immediately, and if we had obsolete items, we couldn't provide services for our community in such a great fashion. So Measure V represents a 10-year continuation of this half-cent temporary tax, which will expire March 31st of 2031. Funds are used to preserve public services such as police protection, fire suppression, street maintenance, animal control, and other services for the town of Paradise. Our projected fund balance for 25-26 is $606,000, and our revenues are anticipated to be $1.3 million. And we are utilizing a little over $1 million because we're trying to save some in case things happen, like a fire truck that we have a great opportunity to front load to pay for. So our projecting ending balance is $857,000. What that looks like, how are we utilizing it? The fire department contract goes into play, so that's $250,000. And the contract staffing support, as many of you know, we pay CAL FIRE to house our fire stations. And we're also setting aside $333,000 for a fire truck that we anticipate to need in 3 years. Total allocation is $583,000 for the fire department. Animal control for operational supplies, not people, is $55,000. Public Works, so when we're looking at things such as snowplow and the team that's on the street, making sure that everything is safe for us, we're looking at $215,000, and that includes 3 utility trucks. The police department is $243,000, and that includes cadet training, which is in our budget for a trainee, operational support and training, K-9 program, so that takes care of vet costs and training for the K-9, mandatory post training, body cam and SAS, that's 1 of 5 years, and then conversions for the VIPs and the CSO. So what we're doing, just so you understand, is as we phase out these police vehicles, they still have life left in them. So instead of purchasing other vehicles for the FIPS or removing the vehicle, we're converting them over to the VIPS department so they have good vehicles to service the community. Any questions on this? Great. Okay, so I want to highlight the words all governmental funds. So this is everything, this is not general fund. So of everything, we're looking at 15% for personnel. Supplies and services, so that also includes our contractors for a lot of our big projects. So if we're looking at construction, that would go into CIP and DR, but the actual contracts to get to that point are going to be in supplies and services. Debt services is 1%, and capital outlay is 1%. So when we look at debt services, that goes into our bonds that we're paying back, which is approximately 1.3 million. Any questions on this?
So consultants would be under the supplies and services?
Services. Mhm. Again, I want to bring to the point, this is all governmental funds by function. So 27% is CIP, admin is 4%, community development is 4%, building and housing is 35%, disaster recovery projects is 9%, public works is 4%, PD is 8%, and fire is 5%. As you go through towards the back of the budget, you're going to see that business and housing is spending approximately $46 million on their projects. So these are loans to individuals, these are housing projects, and they're doing a lot of big projects for us in order to get us to the end result that we're looking to be at. CIP is engineering, and they're the ones who are putting through all the big projects, also found towards the end of the binder. And you'll find in your budget, the CIP projects are listed approximately 30 pages worth. And so you'll see multiple years of what that's going to look like for executing the projects. So this is not going to be a one and done kind of deal. A lot of these projects are multi-year. Any questions? Okay, now we're talking about general fund and where we're putting the funds in order to support our community. And you'll see 1 and 2 is fire and police. And that tells a story in itself of where our priority is as the town, and that is taking care of our community to make sure that they are safe in the upcoming year. So police is 9.5 million, fire is 6.5, administrative services is 3, and the rest of us kind of trickle down as we get smaller and smaller because we're supporting the heavy lift of the other departments. So the big push is really fire and police in order to support our community. Any questions? Nope, okay. Okay, now departmental budgets. Town clerk. Is there anything I need to add to this point?
I'd just like to point out that as the departments are giving their presentations, if you're interested in kind of following along in your budget and where they stand, you can look to section 3 of your budget binder on page 73, and that'll have, in the order of the departments that you're hearing from today, you'll be able to see their individual budgets. So, thank you.
Amy,
Thank
can
you.
you hand me the clicker? Thank you so much. Good afternoon, Council. On the first slide here, you will see a list of the Town Clerk Department's accomplishments, including taking in 383 public records requests and clerking 67 Council, Commission, and Committee meetings in 2025. Our goals for this coming fiscal year includes a phased approach to update the municipal code to identify outdated, inconsistent, or obsolete codes and recommend updates that would reflect current laws and operational practices. 2 examples that come to mind here are the interim housing ordinance, which sunsetted in April of 2024, and thus removing that language out of the code, and updating the town's organizational structure. Right now, for example, the town engineer is under the Community Development Department. So these updates would simply reflect changes that have already been approved by the town council. Our 2 other goals are to assist in the migration of the town's website, townofparadise.com, and the agenda management system to an upgraded platform. These updates are mandatory for the continued use of the systems we already subscribe to and would require a small cost increase. Civic Plus, who hosts these 2 platforms for us, let us know about the migration and cost estimate last week and thus did not make it into your agenda packets. However, this fee is nominal, so for both platforms, it would be around a $1,000 increase. So as this was not budgeted when the packet was put together, we plan to include this adjustment in the budget for adoption in July. Besides the small increase to the two platforms just described, the only other substantial financial change in the town clerk's department would be the 2026 general municipal election, which we have included an estimate of $25,000. The 2024 election cost us around $17,000. However, prices have gone up in the last 2 years, and so we think this will more than cover the increases, but just to be safe. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, I was
Yes.
told at another meeting that all municipalities have to migrate over to a .ca.gov on their websites.
Yes.
Is that something we're going to do with this upgrade?
That would be a function of IT
Okay.
and has already been prepped for all of the websites. I think they're already ready to be rolled out.
Okay.
I don't know what the cost would be for that, Luis. Minimal. This would be the host is giving us a little bit more flexibility in how we create our websites, the pages, a little bit more flexibility there. They were really key on the color change updates, so that are the changes that we'll see there. Of course. So unless we have any other updates, I'll pass the torch on to Town Manager McCarthy.
Great. Thank you very much. Cost savings. I'm going to start with goals, and my goals are your goals, really. Primarily to implement the policies of the council, and that is always the goal of the town manager. It's also to provide management, direction, and leadership to town staff. That includes your directors as well as other staff. And then finally, to create relationships and coordination with our community stakeholders. So those are the three primary goals, and I suspect that every year you have me here, you will have those same goals listed, because that is what I'm committed to. In terms of new financial changes in the town manager budget, you will see that one change is a reclassification of an existing position from an administrative assistant to an executive assistant position. And this is based on the level of work that is currently being done by that individual, including the level of technical knowledge that is required and the level of confidential documents that this individual sees and is privy to in both the town manager and the human resources department. Other than that, it's pretty much business as usual with the town manager budget. So I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. No? Okay, Luis.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council. I don't often get to talk to you, so it's nice. I'll give you a brief update from information technology. So here at Town Hall, this year we deployed new servers at Town Hall, nice new Dell, brand new systems, latest hypervisor. Another project was mobile device management setup that secures our mobile devices. For example, your iPads will be coming around, getting those installed on there, extra security and easier management for us. We deployed new tandem firewalls at our police department that provides for enhanced reliability. One of the devices can go down and fail, and it'll flop over to the other one and continue operations. I've been woken up multiple times at 3 a.m. to turn up there and fix things, so I'm excited about that one. So we also did a workstation refresh at PD, new admin laptops, all new workstations in patrol and in investigations. Dispatch regularly gets updates, so they're on a separate schedule. So another interesting project was animal control IT infrastructure setup. So we were responsible for setting up all the infrastructure for the new animal control project. We terminated low voltage wiring, installed security cameras, and configured switching, all the good stuff to make things work there. All right, goals for this coming year. We're going to upgrade server infrastructure at various town locations, PD being one, the BRC another location. They're aged out and ready to be upgraded. We will be deploying new enterprise wireless hardware at Town Hall that will provide better, more enhanced capacity and easier use and latest standards for Wi-Fi. We're going to further test and implement AI tools for certain use cases town-wide. There's lots of use cases, very useful. Things are going to be pretty interesting the next 5 years, so it's something to look forward to. And we'll be continuing to update aging IT infrastructures as we can. There's environments like this, things age out. We can't do it all at once, so it's a slow process, but something we have to do. Financial changes. So we have additional funds budgeted for training. We always need to keep on top of that. It's kind of a moving target. We're always having to train and keep up to date on things. Cybersecurity defense, that is also another interesting topic, especially with AI these days. It's constant. Back in the day, you used to have to have talent to do these kind of attacks, and nowadays you can use AI to manually script these things, and it makes it very easy. So the attack surface is much larger, so more of a challenge for us. And I wanted to mention, due to a lot of this AI infrastructure build out, these massive data centers, hardware costs have increased dramatically. Certain things like hard drives, memory have gone up, tenfold in some cases. So that'll be something we'll need to look forward to in the future and budget for that. It's a major concern so far. And that's all I have. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, you mentioned AI utilized to do cyber intrusion and all that. How secure do you feel that our infrastructure is today, and what are your plans over the next year to increase the hardness of our infrastructure?
Sure. So I feel we're very secure. We use state-of-the-art perimeter firewalls at PD. We have FortiGate units. We're going to be deploying those at other locations. They're industry standard, very hardened. Our internal network is also the same. We have state-of-the-art antivirus protection. Additional plans include continuing to harden things. We're updating hardware as we can. Deploying things like two-factor. We need to actually get you guys on your devices, but the majority of the town is set up with two-factor authentication, protecting things so somebody can't just get a password and get access from remote. You need that secondary authentication method. Other than that, we continue just to keep on top of things, keep updates going, and keep us strong and hardened.
Do you have an outside contractor that can provide overview of your hardness to say, here's where they think you could improve, or do you do it yourself?
We've done that before. So we've used an organization called CISA. They are under the Department of Homeland Security. They have come in and done vulnerability testing for us and given us a pretty good bill of health. So we do that regularly. We need to do that again, actually, but that's a useful service. It's free to us and very useful.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks.
Good afternoon, Council. So I'm Crystal Peters, I'm the HR Director, and we're going to talk a bit about the HR Department budget. For FY 25-26 accomplishments, we got to go over this in detail at the last council meeting, but over the course of the last year, we hired 9 new employees. So 4 of those positions were new to the organization, and then 5 of those were backfills for retirements, resignations, and promotions. Not listed in that are some of the promotions, predominantly in PD. We had a couple retirements and a lot of exciting movement over there. And then overall, we're pleased to share that the overall vacancy rate is 2.9%, which is considered excellent. For this next year, some goals, we're going to be training for the new staff. We actually do overall have a relatively new staff across the organization, so make sure to outline ongoing training for required and professional development, and then also to continue to navigate the many and ever-changing employment laws. There are new ones every year, and so there's more training requirements coming down the track. Some will also be for elected officials, so we'll make sure to roll those out. And this next year, we want to make safety a focus, so this is something relatively new, the workplace violence prevention program that's required, and so we're going to be doing some in-house training in July, and also just an extra focus on beefing up what we can there, and then policy updates as needed. And as far as budget requests for this next year, we just have the reclassification recommendation for administrative assistant to executive assistant. Town Manager McCarthy mentioned this. This is recognizing the enhanced skills, knowledge, and abilities of our current administrative assistant and elevating that position based on confidentiality and the true nature of the role. And that's all I have for you. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer those. All right, well then I get to turn it back over. Thank you.
Good afternoon. It's a pleasure to see you again. So we had quite a few accomplishments in our department. We have had new staff coming in, and as a result, we've been able to modify some of our procedures, and so one of those is reducing our AP processing time by 20%. We've been modernizing our financial systems and reporting infrastructure, so as you may or may not know, we have to provide a few reports in our department, and so it's an ever-evolving system in order to supply these agencies with reporting that they require. And it's not always the same this week as it is next week. So, that's an ebb and flow in our department. We've also worked heavily on digitizing and strengthening our payroll and records management so that we have it available, because a lot of our audits can go back 20 plus years. So when people retire, they look back at many, many years of payroll for these individuals. We're also striving to improve audit readiness, compliance, and external review outcomes. We've been able to close out some of our legacy FEMA projects and enhance grant oversight, which is very exciting that we can button up a lot of these programs because we're coming to the end of a lot of them. And we've also expanded and developed our finance team with the support of council to support organizational growth. So as you saw in the financial review, back in 2017, there were only 3 staff here, and none of those staff are here today. So to say that there's been growth in our department is an understatement. So with a $135 million budget, prior year we've already spent over $75 million. That's a lot to do with the amount of staff that we have in that department. So what are our goals? Well, we want to continue staff training and cross-training initiatives, implement New World Employee Self-Service Portal. So as you know, a lot of those statements come through email. Those are individually sent out. That is not something that's just a click of a button. And so we really want to update our system so that we can provide a better service for our employees. We also are constantly working to recover outstanding grant reimbursements and also maintain year-round audit readiness and compliance standards. So some people may think that you just get your yearly audit and you get to run with the day, and that is not our department. We go through multiple audits all the time, and a lot of them are stacked on top of each other at the same time. So in order to have good records all the time, it is imperative in order to have year-round audit readiness. I can't put in really cool pictures like other people, so we have a picture of a software. So what is new in our budget? The additional training costs for all staff. I am sending all of my staff to training, and I'm trying to give them the standard base to all of them so that they understand all the moving parts. My prerogative is if person over here and person over here have the same foundation, they understand what is required from the other person, and it makes a much more efficient department. So I'm trying to provide that foundation to all of the staff. In doing so, in order to actually get a better rate, they're all going to be members of the CSMFO, and we're also going to be implementing the New World Employee Model or module, and so that is also an increase. And the amount increase the first year will be a lot, and then after that implementation fee, it will fall off and be less. So we're hoping to have cost savings in other software that we're utilizing in order to backfill for the modules. Any questions?
Yeah, what does CSMFO mean?
California State Municipal Finance Organization, I believe.
Thank you.
Well, that all works, so probably it.
I mean, it makes sense to me.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it's close at least.
Probably works.
Close enough.
Yes. Any questions?
I did have one question. Are we going to be able to expect to have interim budget updates
Yes.
for this coming fiscal year?
Yes,
Okay.
so I've been working with the town manager on what that would look like, and I think I found a report that will roll up like what you've seen in the beginning of your budget, where it's just the categories instead of all the account strands. And so my intent was to provide general fund, if that is the will of the council. Otherwise, it will be another 100-plus pages, monthly or quarterly, whatever you're looking for. So if you give the direction, then we could run with that schematic.
And as we've done in the past, once we do one, we'll get your
Yeah.
feedback, see what worked, what didn't work, and we can change it. But absolutely, whether that be quarterly, I think is what we were talking about. If you'd prefer monthly, we could do monthly, but we were talking quarterly.
I think quarterly is sufficient.
Sure. And as you see those reports, you will see expenditures be very high in certain timeframes. For example, in July, you would see very large amounts being put out there, but that's because we have to front load some of our unfunded liabilities in different areas like that. Our bonds that we have to pay is usually upfront. So you'll see a lot of expenditures with no revenue. And if you think about revenue that comes in when property taxes are paid, so the following month. So you see these huge injections of revenue at very small points in time.
Okay.
Any other questions? No? Police.
Good afternoon, Council. Before I get into the couple of slides we have here, most of you are aware that over the last several years, we've had some long-term vacancies, and those positions have held up to some degree of backfilling or promotions and things of that nature. So when Amy talked about adding the sergeant position, we really converted one of the officer positions to another sergeant position, which is about an overall cost of 5% for that position for the year. And the whole goal behind that is to get our leaders and future leaders into the permanent positions that they have earned to be in, and for the benefit of the day-to-day operations of our police department, right? So looking into the future over the next couple of years, we have 3 anticipated retirements. One of those being a lieutenant, another being a sergeant, and then our property and evidence technician as well. And so really what we're trying to do is look into the future and get our department set up to where we don't have these lag times for people getting in those leadership and important positions. So we'll go over, I don't know what I did, there we go. So our accomplishments for this last year, we completed the animal shelter expansion and remodel, and we had our grand opening. And for the most part, they're up and running. There's just a few infill and technology things that are being finished up. We were able to have our school resource officer serving the Paradise Unified School District. That was very beneficial, and we'll be renewing that MOU at the next council meeting. We filled a vacant lieutenant position with an internal promotion, and we promoted 2 sergeants. Our goals, again, maintaining staffing across the organization. Animal control is fully staffed. Our dispatch, we're going to hire a new dispatcher on Monday, and once she's trained up, they'll be fully staffed. We want to fill that sergeant position that I just spoke about, which has been vacated by long-term injuries, and we want to ensure that day-to-day supervision out on the street. Those are vital roles because at midnight on a Saturday, our supervisors are responsible for the safety of our town. So they're making very important decisions out there. We want to hire and fill the vacant officer positions on July 6th. We have a sponsored recruit starting the Butte College Law Enforcement Academy. And I'm excited to announce that we're going to be starting a background on a lateral police officer. So we should be fully staffed by the end of this fiscal year. And then again, continue with our succession planning, accounting for those upcoming retirements. Really, the only financial changes is that officer to sergeant position, again, about 5% difference. and then adjustments to our overall budget for inflation's cost of services. And we're not purchasing any new vehicles this fiscal year. We're sharing with fire for those prepayments to that fire engine that we'll see in a few years. And with that, I think that's all I have, if you have any questions.
That school resource officer, you say it's with PUSD. I'm assuming that's just in the town of Paradise, or are you covering the schools outside of Paradise?
Within the town of Paradise, there are some crossover. Some of our students do live in Magalia and Concow and things of that nature. So within reason, we'll either request that our allied agencies, do the welfare checks or things of that nature. But if they're not available, we make sure those things happen. Yep.
So in our meeting with the manager, the finance committee, and going over the budget, the salaries for like canine training, like it came to our, like the officers' salaries during like training for canine overtime hours or any of that stuff. Those were never supposed to be Measure V expenditures.
And they're not.
And they're not, okay.
No.
Okay.
Those are general fund. The Measure V money to support the canine program.
Yeah,
is
to pay the
fee,
trainer and all that
veterinarian
other
care.
stuff,
Yeah,
yeah. Okay, that was a question we had, and so
Sure.
thanks for clarifying
You
that.
betcha.
Thank you.
Uh-huh. Any other questions? Okay. And then one more thing, on the Measure V, we asked for quite a bit of money for training. We've got newer officers. We want to make sure that our folks are trained up and ready out there. I just found out yesterday we're getting back over $12,000 from Post in reimbursement, so that's exciting. That money will go back into the general fund.
So, do we have, as I know now we retired one of our canines, so we're looking to replace and,
Yeah, we do want that fourth canine position. Those teams out there have proven to be very beneficial for finding narcotics, guns, searching for missing people, apprehending suspects. What I've asked my canine team to do is to come up with some fundraising opportunities this next fiscal year. I want them to be able to bring some money to the table before we ask for $15,000 to $20,000 to buy a new dog and train a new officer.
What about robotic dogs?
They're out there.
No, I know they are. Thinking with the drone program.
I think the dogs have been such a success, and if I'm correct now, we're down to,
We have 3.
but only one is a bite dog.
That's correct.
Okay.
Apprehension.
Apprehension.
So, yeah, they have a lot of benefits, and we hold the community events, we do the canine demos, and when the schools come do the tours, the dogs are always a big hit. So, but beyond that, they're very purposeful out there for tracking and narcotics detection, and so valuable asset, especially with the smaller department, 3 officers on duty. It's a great asset to have available to us.
Great. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you. All right, Chief Finney.
Yes, sir.
The answer is just
No? Okay. Well, I appreciate that. Good afternoon, council, mayor, vice mayor. Jason Finney, CAL FIRE, North Division Operations, including the town of Paradise. So before you today, we have the accomplishments, goals, and then the changes for our budget. And I'd like to just start off by saying we appreciate the support that the town council has given us throughout the years. We've been very blessed. Obviously, the apparatus and the tools and equipment you provide our firefighters with are top-notch, and it makes our job a lot easier to serve the public. So obviously, right here, one of the accomplishments we had last year was putting Engine 82 into service. You had the push-in ceremony that Amy displayed for us. So state-of-the-art fire engine is doing a great job out there. This is a fire we had a couple weeks ago. So it's out there serving the public well. Over this last year, we've also completed the AVL and MDT upgrades on all apparatus. To you, that doesn't mean much, I'm sure, but it's how our ECC and our dispatch tracks our apparatus, and they send them to the call. So we were running on some outdated equipment that was grant funded by OES a few years ago, so we've been able to update that. Currently, we're transitioning to a program called Tablet Command, and it's that real-time command and control programming that we use not only from the command and control side, but the fire engines go into the calls, hydrant layers, pre-plans, water sources, all those, all that information is within that. So, and as you recall, last year when you voted on the 4-year contract with CAL FIRE, we had some increases in staffing there to meet that new 66-hour work week that we are currently in, with the hope to get to a 56. I don't know what's going to happen next year when labor goes back to negotiations, but we have the people in place to absorb that work week change. For reference, when I started, we started working a 96-hour work week. So we're trying to get back down to that industry standard, which really every organized fire department works in the nation. So this last year we hired the 5th, and then this year we'll have the 6th. We also finished the Station 82 kitchen and office renovation project. So, you know, it's an old fire station over there. The guys take a lot of pride in it, so we appreciate the financial support. They did a lot of the work in-house. They're not afraid to get their hands dirty, but they take a lot of pride in that station, so we appreciate the support. The goals for this upcoming year is continue to upgrade mobile radios on our Paradise fire apparatus to the Motorola APX 8500s. Again, it probably doesn't mean much to you. They're just it's a better radio overall. It allows us to hear PD, a lot of the encrypted channels that we cannot hear on our VHF radios. It also allows us to talk to Chico Fire Department when we go down there for our automatic aid. So it's a better radio. I think most of our engines are upgraded. We have one left, and that's in the budget before you. We want to expand our public education and outreach programs. We do have a Type 3 that's on order. They're going back to do the final on it next month. Should be here and hopefully in service by the end of the fall. That's to replace engine 382. That's a 2001 model. Another goal is to maintain and enhance emergency response readiness through training, equipment, and technology. You know, I think the DFR program that PD is putting in place, obviously that's not ours, but we'll be able to utilize that technology. So I appreciate the work that Chief Reinbold is doing. It's going to really serve not only law enforcement, but fire as well. And then continue hazardous fuels reduction work within the town of Paradise and the South Paradise VMP. The South Paradise VMP is mostly in county jurisdiction. It is up into the town a little bit, but it provides the town with a lot of protection. So we did about 1,000 acres of treatment last year, and we're looking to match that and exceed that this upcoming year. And then financial changes in this year's budget. Again, we're adding that 6th firefighter 2, so that basically will give us those 3 shifts at each station. We will upfit and equip engine 382 for service. The radio upgrades that I spoke about, we did have a small increase to fuel and utility costs with $7 diesel out there. We just wanted to make sure we budgeted for that. We don't, you know, we've seen a dip in the prices. Fire engines don't get great gas mileage, but we definitely we're very aware of that. And then a new thing to us is OSHA adopted NFPA 1981, which requires annual testing and inspection of all of our PPE, our structural turnout gear. So there's a cost associated with that. So we budgeted for that. In addition, there's some advanced cleaning. Anytime we're in an environment where there's lithium-ion batteries involved, it has to go for advanced cleaning. That smoke is very caustic and toxic to not only our gear, but our personnel as well. So that's been budgeted as well. So that's a 30,000-foot Cliff Note overview. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Have we already bought the fire engine?
The one
you're waiting to get, or?
Yes, it's already been purchased.
Okay, and then in the Measure V budget, there's something about $1 million and something for another fire engine?
So we had to ask to have another one pre-funded in consultation with fleet management. That one is engine 81 is about 10 years old. So with the...
Let me ask, where I was going with this is, if we're anticipating like $1 million a year from Measure V, and in a conversation with you yesterday about how could we on the cheap build, we need to replace Station 82. So somewhere down the way, we need to start throwing some money into a bucket for that.
Agreed.
And, you know, I mean, so whether we reevaluate the 81 engine is 10 years old or whatever it is.
Right.
What's the life expectancy of that? I mean, because what was the number you gave me? $6 million? Or?
For a fire station? Again, that's...
On the cheap, we're talking about a cheap.
Cheap, you're probably, and I'm just throwing numbers, 7 to 8, I would say.
7 to 8, okay.
Right, it's, building costs are,
But I'm
they're
just
not
saying,
cheap.
you know, like, we should somehow,
No, I agree. And one thing the town manager and I spoke about yesterday is creating a fund to where when your apparatus, when the fire engines go out and they get hired by the state on wildland fires, we take that money, put it back into basically an allocated fund balance, and then at least you have some money in there to replace equipment when it comes due. So we do that on the county side. I think it's a great idea. I think it's been brought before, but just maybe didn't get traction.
It's just,
But
because I know, like, even if we were to take that, whatever the revenue we get this year from Measure V, and if we ordered a fire station today, I mean, a fire engine today, how long is it? It's 3 or 4 years?
It'll take 3 or
before they
4
get-
years, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like maybe.
382 was ordered September of 23, and it'll be here about September of 23.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you're about
So-
3 years.
I just thought I'd,
And we're very aware of the cost. I mean, it's astronomical. There's lawsuits happening nationwide against the fire engine manufacturers. There's an antitrust lawsuit. So it's not just affecting Paradise, it is everywhere. I want to get us on a good, sustainable equipment replacement plan in the town. 81 and 82 were only a year apart, so we're trying to get some years between those.
yeah, we could fit a new fire engine in Station 81. We could barely fit the new fire engine in Station 82.
Yeah, it's gonna be tight.
And we have to remember to keep the doors closed.
Affirmative.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you.
So as I recall, at least one year, we were taking money and putting it from like the rental of our trucks to other agencies when we went down to other fires. And I guess I thought we were, and I was corrected, but I thought we had been doing that all along, but.
Yeah, I don't think we have, but I think it's a good idea to do, because then it's just, you could have 50% of your fire engine cost in that fund waiting for you.
That's right. And Mayor, one thing we talked about is thinking through perhaps what are some budget policies that we can bring forward next year as we look towards our budget and we think about things like this that we want to have in play operationally on an annual basis, so we know that this amount of money is going to be utilized for that purpose. So things for us internally to start thinking about, because the concept is a great one.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you. Thank you much.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Council. I'm Susan Hartman, Director of Planning, Wastewater, and Solid Waste, here to present the budget for community development, which is comprised of 6 divisions: planning, wastewater, solid waste, fire prevention, code enforcement, and building. So some of the accomplishments from last year was the issuance of the contract to update the rest of the general plan. We'd already done 2 of the 7 elements. Now we have a contract to do the other 5, should be wrapped up by the end of 2028. We also participated as a top 10 finalist in something called the Fire Grand Challenge, and that's worldwide. And it primarily focuses on wildfire mitigation and recovery. So we were a community partner, and then I was partnered with a technical partner that was actually out of state, found out about it through our wildfire buffer group. So that was exciting. We also implemented a new software that allows for online permit submittals. So we're getting ahead of AB 2234, which is requiring all jurisdictions implement that. It also allows for better project management for our staff, because now we can do concurrent plan review instead of subsequent, where one person has the plans and they have to pass it on to the next. We can all be looking at it at the same time. So that's been a great help. Another accomplishment, beginning of the year, we were able to kick off the collection of mixed organics. This is an SB 1383 requirement, one of only 2 jurisdictions in the county compliant with that portion so far. So goals for this upcoming year is continuing to maintain above a 90% defensible space compliance, again through education and outreach. Working with NRWS for another facet of SB 1383, and this is giveaway of materials that we procure that are recovered organic materials. We are obligated to buy a certain tonnage back. We'll also be getting into the land use alternatives for the general plan, and this, I think, is what people think of when they think of a general plan update. This is what is going to drive future zoning changes. So we'll start off with some outreach in these, starting in July, to start get feedback of areas in town that we should be looking at land use alternatives for. So I'm excited for this part. We also want to continue to partner with Shasta Cascade chapter of the International Code Council to be able to do local building and fire code trainings. Those are really hard to come by in the North State, and so we've been able to host a couple in our facilities, and it's been a great partnership. And then as we continue to implement this online software, again, we didn't go into this having any experience doing that, so we're learning as we go. We're taking feedback from the community, trying to work with the software developer to make the software more user-friendly. So we'll continue to do that. Financial changes for next year. You'll see in the budget that the training for, well, employee development under the enterprise fund, which covers building and wastewater staff, has been increased by 30%. We're pulling that, the recommendation out of the building audit to increase the training. We've also budgeted out of the planning budget $5,100 to replace our movable meeting monitor. We have a big monitor in the brick. If you've been there before, we use it for all of our stakeholders meetings, staff training, EOC training. It can no longer support the software updates like any bit of technology, so it's time to replace it. And then of note, CDD is made up of two funds. Part of it's the general fund, then that's planning, solid waste, fire prevention. Their proposed budget is coming in at 12.5% less than last year's adopted budget. The enterprise fund, which funds building and wastewater, is proposed to come in 2% less than last year's budget. So if there's any questions from council.
Are you reducing any support or staff to get to this? How did you get a 12.5%
Yes, thank you.
reduction?
So in the planning budget, that's where the big things, that's where the abatement funds live. And when the urgency ordinance ran out for the RVs, we had money set aside to do the RV abatements. We're almost done with that, so we were able to greatly reduce that line item, not weed abatement, that's separate and still in there. But RVs we could lessen, and then we didn't need to buy a vehicle this year like we did last year. And same with buildings. They had some IT infrastructure and a vehicle. We didn't need it this year.
Okay, good, thank you.
Okay.
Good afternoon, Council. My name is Mark Maddox. I'm the Assistant Town Manager, Public Works Director, and Town Engineer. It's my pleasure to present the accomplishments, goals, and financial changes for the Public Works Department, inclusive of the Engineering Division, Fleet Division, as well as maintenance, which includes facilities, streets, public right-of-way. So for our 25-26 accomplishments, we had our biggest paving year yet, paved nearly 30 miles of roadway, never been done in the town's history, not sure if it's been done in the county's history, and really excited and grateful for the team delivering that across multiple contracts throughout the community, and a lot of coordination and effort went into that. We went ahead and advanced our $400 million capital improvement program, continued to maintain 100 miles of roadway, including our snow event that we had on our interview day for town manager. So that was exciting. And then we continue, our fleet department or division continues to maintain 140 active fleet items. And in addition to animal control finishing the expansion, we also renovated the fleet shop improvements there and made a much safer, modern working environment for our employees doing great work. For our goals in 26-27, with our evolved Paradise Sewer project, our goal is to release the subsequent programmatic environmental impact report. That's a fancy way of saying reviewing the new changes that weren't studied back in 2022, such as where a treatment facility is going to take place and where the discharge is going to happen, that is permittable. And so a lot of work is happening right now, and we forecast that for early next year. This is our last calendar year. I'll separate the discussion between fiscal year and go to calendar year. This is really our last calendar year of major standalone roadway rehabilitation projects. That's built into the budget. We have a lot of work ongoing right now in the month of June, and that work is going to continue into July, into that new fiscal year. So you're seeing Knife River Construction doing a lot of neighborhood work. That work's winding down, and then we'll be transitioning to more of the arterials. Instead of being funded by FEMA for neighborhood work, it'll be funded by FHWA for the arterial work, and that's going to be Upper Skyway, Upper Clark, Elliott, Lower Pence, most of those being done at night. So that's going to be huge. And then, of course, I continue to maintain our facilities fleet and infrastructure. As far as a $40 million engineering budget goes, this is a pretty status quo budget for our department. We really only have a couple of changes. One of them is doing interim repairs on Skyway between Billy and Wagstaff. This is one of those really difficult decisions to really make sure we're being as efficient as possible with our limited resources, but also maintaining a minimum level of service that our community expects. And if it doesn't take long to drive around town to identify this portion of Skyway as one of our worst, and the reason why this section has not been paved so far and is not being paved in the short term is because it's being leveraged. I talked about our roadway standalone projects winding down. That's because the remaining roadway roads that have not been paved are being leveraged with other improvements, meaning other funds and other infrastructure. So for Skyway between Billy and Wagstaff, we have a planned capital project, which is in your budget, through grants that includes active transportation program funds, that includes CDBG-DR funds, and as well as the federal highways funds. And so all of that's working together and also in partnership with our utilities, PID, as well as PG&E, to go ahead and design and deliver that project. But that project, as we saw about the shifting workloads and capital project delivery, varies year to year. That project's probably 2028 before we're looking at construction. And so with that in mind, it's our recommendation in this budget that we approve $200,000 for these interim repairs between Billy and Wagstaff. That'll do some dig outs, some crack sealing, some smoothing that we know there's some issues along this section. And so hopeful that this will hold until that larger comprehensive $15 million project comes later. So it'd be great if we could deliver that project right now, but we're dependent upon utilities, design, right-of-way, and so on. So that's in the budget. We're going to continue delivery. The $43 million is budgeted for the capital project portion, and so not a lot of construction activity. I heard a question from Councilmember Lang about consultants. A lot of this is across 16 projects. There's multiple consultants working in parallel, where one of our projects could be ready for construction, being the Skyway Pent Signal. But at this time, it's really similar to the sewer project. We're in the environmental, we're in the design, we're in the right-of-way phase, working with property owners, meeting with them in the field, making adjustments to design. And so a lot of behind-the-scenes pre-project development work. And then I pictured kind of 2027 as the calm before the excitement. I don't want to say storm, because it's going to be exciting. We don't have a standalone road rehab project in the calendar year of 2027. Once we're done this year, it's done, and then we're going to be delivering the major projects along Pence, Skyway, and Neal Road, and then the Southeast Paradise Evacuation Ramp project if it moves forward. So with that, we also have in the budget some flashing beacons in partnership with the school resource officer, administrative staff at PUSD. There's been a recommendation to enhance safety at the crosswalk locations for Paradise High School. We're excited to deliver those. Those are on order and will hit in this fiscal year that we're for 26-27, as well as some security improvements at the BRC is in the facilities budget. So with that, I'd be glad to answer any questions the council might have.
So you're saying that, so after the fire, FEMA gave us a bunch of money to repair all of our public roads. And then we had to wait for the undergrounding, and we had to wait for this and wait for that. So the Billy to Wagstaff Skyway project is terrible. We're not going to do that this year or next year. The soonest that would be 2028.
So that section is being leveraged with other funds.
I understand, but that's the point. The point of my question is, we got money given to us or allocated, or we got grants to fix all the roads, the existing roads that we own. And so now you want to leverage that because maybe we can get some safe routes to school money or some other money to make the road different than what it was. We can't just repair it.
Well, I'll take your question in pieces. First, I want to point out that this is funds that are obligated, not given to the town. It's based on a reimbursement basis, and the funding source for this is the Federal Highways Administration through the Emergency Relief Program. Second is the repairs are being proposed in the budget are locally funded to make the interim repairs. And third, the funds through Active Transportation Program and CDBG-DR are secured funds, not hoping. And that project is on pace for delivery in 2028.
So why is it different? Why can't we just go fix the existing road?
Well, I think that's a great question because it's my understanding and getting response from the community and the council that there's a priority to only dig these roads up once. And so we can't do that until undergrounding is complete. And this project is being designed to accommodate for storm drain improvements that the Skyway project will bring. We're aware of storm drain issues along this section. And so trying to pave the road with just the disaster recovery money, aside from the active transportation and the funding to add a center two-way left turn lane, which this project includes, is that what you would do is you would pave, 3 years ago, would have paved two lanes essentially, or replaced the asphalt as it was. And then when this project comes forward, one, the budget for those roads would be less. And two, you'd be digging up the same road to install the storm drain improvements, the undergrounding of the utilities, including the sidewalks.
But you're gonna do the same thing if you ever get the sewer to go, and you're gonna do this, PID is gonna do the same thing for a water. So, I mean, I'm just, and where I'm coming from with this, Mark, is that I'm just so tired of bad roads. We're almost 8 years after the fire, and it's just like, and these are the main roads that everybody, not just us, but everybody out of Magalia drives every day.
Yeah, I completely agree. By the end of the calendar year, we'll have paved 93 miles out of our 100 miles of roadway. And so what we're looking at is the final 7 miles, Skyway between Billy and Wagstaff, Neal Road between Skyway and Town Limits, Pence Road between Skyway and Pearson Road.
I just had to ask.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right, thank you so much.
Good afternoon, Council. I'm Colette Curtis. I'm the Recovery and Economic Development Director here at the Town of Paradise, and I am pleased to go over the budget for my department. So some of the accomplishments that we had, and there were so many, it was very hard for me to keep it to the limit for these slides, but brevity is always important. So, but of course, we completed our Category 4 tree program. We removed 9,000 trees. We're extremely proud of that program. It was a long time coming. So very proud that we were able to deliver that project. We also completed the emergency warning siren project. We just had council approve the completion of that, and we have given out the first 450 of those safe units, those in-home units. We still have another 2,000 units or so to give out. So we are continually trying to get that word out to get those into as many homes as possible. And we have various ways of doing that. We're very excited. We're working with many of our multifamily housing projects as well to get those into the hands of our residents. We also completed the downtown phase 3 strategy, as well as the strategic healthcare recovery plan, and we completed the utility box mural project. I think when I think about the accomplishments that we have had this past fiscal year, I think about the goals of this council, and that is moving economic development and recovery forward. And that is not something that is accomplished in 1 year or 2 years. This is a multi-year, sometimes decades-long project. And so right now, we are really laying the foundation for what that economic development is going to look like over the next several decades here, so that when we look at the beginning of this presentation and look at those bar charts, we can start closing those gaps. That's really what we're trying to do here with the accomplishments in this department. So the goals for the 26-27 fiscal year is to complete one of our outstanding FEMA hazard mitigation programs, the Residential Ignition Resistant Rehab Program, which we're so proud of because this is really one of the only recovery projects through FEMA that was for standing homes. And so we're very proud of that program. We also are working with the state of California to show how this worked for us so it can be rolled out at the state level statewide. So we're very proud of that. We also are working to complete the long-term community recovery plan update, which will include a very robust economic development strategy and an incentives program. So that is moving along. We will have a lot more information for you by the end of the summer on that. Also, as council has approved, we'll be hiring an economic development coordinator to be the day-to-day manager of these items. And also, of course, as always, support existing businesses and recruit new businesses in coordination with our economic development committee. And one of the things that we're working on currently and hope to get quick resolution on is the Opportunity Zone 2.0. So this is a program that is a federal program that provides tax incentives for businesses in identified areas called Opportunity Zones. So Paradise has 3 census tracts that are eligible for this program. So we are working very hard to send those recommendations to the governor's office. The governor will be making those recommendations in August and September, and then we'll find out by the start of 2027 whether any of Paradise's census tracts have been selected. So we're very hopeful. I think we'll have some very strong applications, and we will be bringing an item to council at the July council meeting with more information on that, as well as a resolution authorizing that application. Some of the new financial changes, there aren't a lot. A lot of what we're doing has kind of been baked into the budget from the past year. We're continuing those efforts. But some of the things to call out is looking to set aside some funding to do a census survey. And this really addresses the issue that we have discovered with our population number. We discussed this a little bit at the last council meeting, but we really struggle with the data that we have when it comes to our demographics and our population, and that really is foundational for everything we're doing when it comes to economic development. So it's very important that we have a good number. So we wanted to set aside some funding. There is more discussion to be had about what that will look like, but we wanted to have some funding in the budget to make sure we're able to act on whatever the recommendation ends up being. Also, we had a request to support our FireWise communities. So this really underscores what we're doing for insurance, which is another huge barrier to our recovery and in increasing our economic development, is making sure we have our insurance market sorted. And so what we would really like to do is make a goal to have all of our communities as a FireWise community. And in doing that, we want to increase that awareness. We've had a request to do that. So we've set aside some funds to do some of that communication. And then finally, this already was approved by council, but wanted to point that out, is the increase to the transient occupancy tax investment program, which is going from $100,000 to $140,000 this year. And we will be putting out those notice of interest forms starting August 1st. And that's all I have. So if there are any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
I hope this isn't out of place, but did we find a way to fit in the consideration for EV?
Yes, that is already in the budget. It's already budgeted under the kind of marketing information we have.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So do we have anything in there to move this healthcare study forward, to use it, to, attract more services? Where are we at with that?
That's a great question. There is no specific budget set aside for that. I think we have some discussions that need to be had with some of our partners in the community as well as outside of the community, and then council needs to direct which way to go. We are also waiting on some funding that we know is coming from the state that has not been fully announced yet. So I think we need some more information before we could really put something in the budget, but certainly if something comes up, we will bring it back to council for consideration. We could do a budget adjustment, or it may be that it goes into next year's budget, but we will bring that to council if and when we have something tangible.
Because that's one of the number one questions that I'm getting, and
Yeah.
this has been going on quite a while, so we just need to, I think, make a little more progress on it.
Understood.
Also, the in-home sirens, so haven't had a big success at Parkhill Park. I think we've given out 5 so far. Have had a few questions and hiccups with them. Now, I know on the sirens, I guess our warranty is out. The home units, being that they haven't even got out there and they seem to still have some hiccups, is that still being warranted, or?
Yes, there is a whole support for those. So there's a phone number that comes along with it. But certainly we are working, and I know you had, communicated those issues to Brian and I. So we're working with the tech people with our consultant on that. So yes, we are continuing to work through that, and there is support for that.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of on the same line as the in-home units, it might be worth reaching out to the home health providers on the Ridge and see if their clients might be able to utilize it. Just
That's a
thought.
great idea. Great. So now I'm going to move into housing. Again, hello, I'm Colette Curtis. I'm the Recovery and Economic Development Director for the Town of Paradise, and housing is within this department. Because there is so much activity within housing, we wanted to have it kind of on their own separate slides. So in 25-26, we had some really amazing accomplishments. So we have completed 73 homes under the owner-occupied reconstruction program. So these are homes that were built from the ground up, 73 homes utilizing about $11 million in loan assistance. So this was a huge lift for this department that is very small. It is 100% grant funded. And so this was a very meaningful impact to our community. We also continue to offer the rehabilitation program. So this is actually where this program began when we started offering CDBG related programs in 1994. And this is really to address health and safety concerns within homes. This provides very low interest loans to income eligible individuals. So we continue to offer those as well as full reconstruction that is of course needed now. We also assisted 105 households for the first-time homebuyer program. That program has been extremely successful. It has been for a long time, but we have seen a huge uptick in people participating in that program. It's really amazing to see. And this was just in 25-26. Just this week we received more applications. We have more than we know what to do with. So it's really fantastic seeing that happen and seeing a lot of young people buying a home for the first time in Paradise.
Colette, that house in that slide, that is not, those plants are too close to the house. That violates our building ordinances. So if we're giving money to people to build houses, we want to make sure they build them the right way.
Thank you.
I have a quick question about the structure of the loan program. So the loan repayments, do they just continue the program, or how does that work?
So when those loans are paid back off to us, yes, it is a revolving loan fund. So it goes into something called program income, which we can then use to loan back out.
Very cool.
So it's an excellent program.
Yeah.
Okay, and so goals for the upcoming year. Of course, we're going to have some more information and update on this coming in the next few months to council. But as you may remember, we have 7 multifamily home projects that were funded through CDBG-DR. 5 of those are actually complete and rented up fully. 2 are still under construction. And so far we have 150 units that are completed and leased, which is huge for this community, as you know. We still have 142 units under construction that will be ready at the end of this year. So our goal is to complete those. And then of course we start the monitoring and all of those back end things that we need to do. We will continue to offer our first-time homebuyer program, and we also are excited to launch a new program. It is the Infill New Construction Program. This will build more homes, and this really filled a gap that we saw right from the start after the fire for people who maybe didn't own their home before the fire, but really wanted to come back and build a home. There really was not an assistance program that helped them do that. This program helps them do that. So we're very excited about that. We actually helped write the guidelines for this with HCD. This is not something they've ever done before, so we're really proud of this program. And we also just continue to use every funding source available to support housing in the community. So I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. Okay. I'm happy to report I'm the last department to present, so Amy.
One comment on that last thing, that new program. We had a number of people that were renters here, and the homes burnt. And then they were given the property by the people because they had moved on, and there was nothing available for them from the insurance or FEMA or the, you know what I mean. They couldn't get any funds because they didn't own it beforehand. So this kind of a program it's really cool.
Yes, they could
Yeah,
potentially
that's really great.
do something here. That is the gap that I was talking about. Yeah, thank you.
A blessing and a curse. One thing that I wanted to add, after the copious amounts of pages in that budget document, I do know that there is, in position control, there's a senior maintenance position, and that is mislabeled. It should be a maintenance 1 position. So when we bring this back for adoption, we will adjust that. It was budgeted properly. It just had the wrong name.
I'm glad you mentioned that. That was bugging the heck out of me.
I knew
Not-
it was.
Not true.
So that concludes most of our presentation today. The last part is our successor agency. So the successor agency was budgeted based off the schedule in which we have to repay the loans. It is based off the redevelopment area that we get taxes for. And as we know, once the fire took place, it decimated the tax base in order to make the payments on the 2 outstanding bonds that were issued for those areas. Being that those bonds went into default, there is an order of operations in which we must make the payments. So we must make the payments to the first bond in full first before we can make payments to the second bond. In that regard, we can also not pay any other fees associated with it, like disclosures or trustees. So the general fund is bridging that gap until we can actually make payments through the successor agency. So we will not be receiving $400,000. However, we budgeted based off of the schedule that we received. And if we get more money than what we think we're going to get, we have the ability to make the full payment because we budgeted for it, and that's what we supplied. So currently, I believe we have received approximately $270,000, which is tremendous because we didn't think we were going to be able to do that. And so as such, as soon as we get the money, we ship it off to the trustee, and then they make the payments to the first bondholders.
Have we always done that?
Yes. Well, there was, the first year we were able to utilize some of the bond holdings that were withheld, and that bridged that first year when we didn't
Right.
have enough funds.
Right.
And then after that, the following year, we were waiting for clear direction on how to apply the funds, because you could slice that pie anyway. You could do a percentage based off both of them. You could, hold the money and then wait till you could make the full payment. So there was a lot of different possibilities. So we waited until we had clear direction from the county and the state as to how to make the payments.
But we've always budgeted the full amount every year?
No.
Thank you. I didn't
We
think so
we budgeted less last year,
Right.
but as I learn more and know more, I do more. And so in
Right.
that case, I budgeted more.
That doesn't concern you?
It is isolated to that fund and not the general fund. It doesn't concern me in the sense that if we don't receive the money, we don't pay out the money.
Right.
Okay.
So, and I believe that,
Writing, I don't know. Okay.
I honestly do not know how much we could get, and as we do redevelop those areas, the possibility of getting more money is likely because
Then why do we budget for, why don't we just, it's a pass-through, right?
Yes,
Why don't we just leave it as a pass-through and not budget it?
I believe I'm required to actually put a budget in.
Seriously?
In order to show the county. Yeah, because we have to provide this to the county in December and provide a budget for that.
Yes, you are required to adopt a budget for your successor agency.
I couldn't just leave it as zero because then they wouldn't even give us any funds.
one of the only areas that was in the RDA that we spent any money on, any improvements that we're receiving money on, that didn't burn, is the complex where Hudson's Appliance is. That whole facade was all done under RDA funds, so that tax increment increase, that's, I don't know if there's other areas, I know that area was one that survived the fire.
I believe 3 years ago, we were under 100,000. And so it really has shifted.
Yeah, and I just want to make sure that we budget it, we don't have to fulfill that budget.
No.
It is just considered a pass-through. That's something that concerns me, because I don't remember ever budgeting the full amount before, so.
And if it's not there, in theory, we couldn't make the payment. So I wanted to make sure that we were taking care of the bondholders and
Agreed.
reaping the benefit as much as possible in order to pass it on,
As
so we
long
could
as-
pay those loans off.
As long as they're not held.
No, we're not. So with that, any other questions for the successor agency? Oh, I forgot, sorry, yep, that. So with that, that completes our presentation. I hope that this year was easy for you to go through the documents. We found all the different areas valuable. If you have any questions, We are more than happy to share what we can with you in order to get more clarification. In the back of the document, there's 85 pages worth of detail that shows you where we're getting the numbers. This is zero-based budgeting, which means we're not just taking a big paintbrush and just refilling with what we did in the past. You can see exactly the things that we plan on doing in each one of the budgets, even the revenue. And so that last 85 page in the budget really is the guidance for all of the other numbers for the rest of the documentation. We're going to be bringing this back on the 14th of July for you to approve it. If there's any adjustments in that time frame, we will let you know once we bring that document to you. Is there any other questions? No?
How do we pay the bills from July 1st to July 14th? If our fiscal year runs July 1 through June 30, what happens on July 1? We haven't approved a budget, so do we not pay bills?
You'll get paid.
Huh?
You'll get paid.
No, I know that, but every old is. It's like, how come we gotta wait 2 weeks to do this? Why can't we just do it now?
It has to be, have like a cool down period, so you present the budget, people need time to absorb it, and then it has to be brought back at a later date. You can't present and approve it at the same time. It is required for agencies to do that.
Okay, nobody gets paid till the 14th.
There you go.
Any other questions? Okay, so I understand we have a card.
We do have a card. Alexander Byrne?
Hello, thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I do want to clarify, this is something that started for me just looking at the ballot from the June 2nd and looking at the county level, so nothing really to do with council here. However, something that I think inspired me to speak to you all. I introduced myself at the last meeting, and then today I want to talk numbers, practicality of implementing my ideas, and leave it up to you. Historical context as well. So I mentioned in the last meeting I was concerned that there was a bunch of people running unopposed, and I like the idea of friendly competition. I don't want elections to be combative, tearing people down. So I'm talking about item 2G, general fund, town clerk budget. My understanding is that clerk's involved with elections. So, historical context, until 1804, our nation had ranked choice voting. George Washington, was unanimously elected. What an honor, right? And re-elected 4 times. Again, such an honor. I think that's beautiful. But he had opposition, and I want a way to welcome more candidates. So I took the liberty of calculating the cost of restoring this tradition. Forgive me if I left anything out, but 2025 population was approximately 11,000 people. Not everyone registers to vote, so I'm probably overestimating with this because I'm going to use that number. Historically, only 60 to 70% population registered to vote, so again, overestimating. And the last public census I could find on registered voters was 2019. I feel like that's outdated and it's lower, so I'm going to go with 11,000 for this calculation. Cost of ink to add 42 characters to 11,000 ballots to read select a first choice and a second choice. I don't know what kind of printer you use for the ballots, so I went over 13 different series of printers to see the most cost-effective and the least cost-effective in terms of ink usage, because we all know ink gets expensive. But not in this case. I found that the most efficient printer was the Brother MFC series at $14.51 total for all 11,000 ballots, and the least efficient was the Epson Artisan series at $25.32, again, for all 11,000 ballots. And perhaps it could be a couple extra dollars if we have more candidates on the ballot and we need a couple extra circles to indicate the ranking. If not, it's just a welcome to say we want friendly competition. And if you win unanimously, again, what an honor that would be. But again, this didn't start with you all. This started with me as a resident wanting my vote to matter. And that's really all it comes down to. That's it. All I have for you today. Any questions? No? All right.
I have no other cards.